Hello, this is Josiah Winslow recording for his client server and e-commerce implementations course for instructor Mark Cribb. Now today I'm wearing a Crush Orange t-shirt for absolutely no reason at all. Now today we are completing Activity 4, and right as soon as I'm done chugging whatever this is, we can get started. That's good. That is extremely good. So we are working on Activity 4, where we introduce React.js and we incorporate that into our Blockbox project. Now, whichever version of the .NET Core that you have, version 2.2 like it says in the docs, or version 5 like I do, you should be able to get through most of these without breaking a sweat. So here we have the git repo fix. This is a very simple thing to do. We create the React app that we are going to use on the front end. And that'll work very nicely. And when we look at where the React app will inject its tags and its code and such, it's right in this div with the ID of root in the index.html. And now, at this point is where things are going to differ between different versions of the .NET SDK, because there is a different default backend app that is loaded. So actually, that is the wrong tab. So let me go ahead and run the React.js app and the .NET app. So let's wait. Yeah, it's not showing up anything here because I haven't started the other thing yet. Okay, so as you might be aware, the app homepage, basically, that it'll open is not API/values like it is in the activity docs, but rather something called Swagger. And this is basically going to be a hub for being able to look at all of the endpoints on your API. The only one that we have by default is this weather forecast get endpoint, which we would get with a get request. So to figure out how that works, let's try it out. Click execute. Alright, and so this response, this command would be something that you would give to the curl console app, which will call some URL. And this is the URL it's calling. So wherever we have localhost :5000/API/values in our React app, we're actually going to be calling this. And I'm pretty sure we're going to change up the endpoints and have it be different, but for now we're going to use this. And this, calling this request URL will give us an array, right there, of JavaScript objects, each with its own fields for date, temperature in Celsius, temperature in Fahrenheit, and a weather summary. And if we go into the weather forecast controller, and you'll see that in the folder API, then controllers, then weather forecast controller.cs. And this is what controls that endpoint. And here is the get for that, and it creates a field with a date, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 days from now, a temperature Celsius, which is random between -20 and 55, and a summary, which is a random entry in the summary array right here. So that is what we are going to be working with for displaying our default values of the API results. So if we go into app.tsx, we should be able to turn this from the functional to the class style, just like that, without any issues. And connecting to our API, Axios should install smoothly for you. But right here, here's where it differs. So in the activity doc, the URL that we are calling to get our values from our example API is API/values. But as I said before, we have to replace it with this, which will give us an array of JavaScript objects with the weather forecasts. And I believe in the .NET SDK version 2.2, what it loads this with is this will return an array of 2 strings, one that's value 1 and one that's value 2. So that's the first thing we need to change, is the URL should point to the weather forecast API that we have instead of that. And 2, we have to handle it differently because it's returning JavaScript objects and not strings. So actually, let me show you by example. So here I am in my app.tsx calling the weather forecast API. Now this is what I have to display that, but for now let's ignore it. And I'm going to replace it with what we have in the activity doc. So all we had, and this was on the assumption that we are getting some array of actual values. It'll take each value in the values that we get as return values, and it'll create a div with the key equal to whichever one it is, and then contents equal to whichever one it is. Now, because we are using JavaScript objects and not strings, this will end very poorly for us. Yeah, and we can see right here, objects are not valid as a React child. So this is freaking out on us because we can't have the contents of an HTML doc be a Java object, or JavaScript object, excuse me. So what we need to do is we need to account for the fact that value is not going to be a string, but an object with keys. And what keys are they? I told you before, they have date key, right here, a temperature C key, temperature F key, and a summary key. So let's just change that to value.date just to see what's going on, and we're also probably going to change this too. Actually, let's change that, because if we set the key equal to the value, it's going to try to convert that to a string with JavaScript, and every object is converted to a string with object in it, and we can't have keys of this. And here we go. So we got something displaying, and this is each of the different date strings that are returned by the 5 values from our API. Now let me uncomment this. And just as a sort of way to format this nicely, just so I know I'm getting everything and everything is working, I decided to give it a key which should be unique. and a style of a 1M margin bottom, which if you have studied HTML then and CSS, then you should recognize that this will make it so each of these divs have a bottom margin of basically the height of a character. And then the literal contents are going to be date, colon, and then I convert the date string I have to something like 10/1/2021, stuff like that. A line break, and I had to add this slash here because there's a self-closing tag. And then the temperature C, degrees Celsius, slash temperature F, degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this is all going to change once we actually continue with our blog box assignment, and then value.summary. But this is how we're basically going to this is just as an example. So right here it's returning our date as a nicely formatted date string. It's returning the temperatures that it gets in Celsius and Fahrenheit, and it's giving us the summaries for each of these. And we can see, when we inspect element, we have a style of a margin bottom of 1M or 1 character height, just like we specified. Date, the date string, line break, 16 degrees Celsius, 60 degrees Fahrenheit, line break, hot, and so on and so forth. Now, finally, we need to enable cross-origin resource sharing, I believe is what that stands for. And this will allow our API to take a request from our actual app and from nowhere else. That is extremely important, because it's not going to take it from anywhere unless we allow it. Now, we can do this very easily in our startup.cs. However, just to clarify, I will, because this looks a little different, I will clarify where exactly. So here I have a private read-only string course policy with course policy in it. That can be anywhere within the startup class. And in the configure services method, I have above services.add controllers, I put the add course snippet. And right here in the configure method, I put the use cores method for the app right under this line that we commented out for using HTTPS redirection. And once I had that, then everything ended up working. Alright, and we should not get a CORS error anymore. And I was able to, just about an hour ago, commit that and push that to my repository. And with that, that is the end of the assignment. Take care, and Mr. Cribb, I hope you give me a good grade on this. Thank you. And any concerns that any of my classmates have, you can put those in the discussion board, or we can bring them up during the next class session, and me or somebody else would gladly help you with this. Thank you.